Hello students, welcome you all to Upsc Trinity. In the recent class, we discussed about national parks and all about that. In today's lecture, we will be discussing about wildlife sanctuaries of India. Okay, let's see. So it is important, wildlife sanctuaries are important from the perspective of prelims. From the perspective of prelims, it is very important. So all of the facts of the wildlife sanctuaries, though not important for the prelims perspective, but we must know about them. And prelims perspective, okay. And it is also important from the aspect of mains examination, so we must consider that as well. Okay, and let's see what wildlife sanctuaries says. Okay, what are wildlife sanctuaries? Wildlife sanctuaries are also nothing but the protected areas, as we saw in the national park. These are the protected areas designated for the conservation of wildlife and their habitats. Okay, these are nothing but the protected areas. Okay, you can question then what is the difference between wildlife sanctuaries and national parks? Okay, let's see. The primary purpose of wildlife sanctuaries is to provide a safe and secure environment for various species, especially those who are endangered or threatened, similar as what? National parks. National parks also does the same work. Okay. Here it says, unlike national parks, which have stricter regulations, are often larger in size, wildlife sanctuaries are also some degree of allow some degree of human activities such as tourism, sustainable resources, as long as it does not harm the wildlife and their habitats. So here it says how it is different from national parks is that wildlife sanctuaries allow the some of the human activities, whereas national park does not include any kind of human activities, as it is the highest secured zone, as we saw in the last video lecture. Okay, so why the objectives? What are the objectives of wildlife sanctuaries? वही सेम, प्रोटेक्ट वाइड फ्लोराज एंड फौनाज, एंडेंजर्ड एंडेमिक प्लांट्स, वो सबको प्रोटेक्ट करना होता है, मेंटेन रिस्टोर करना है. ओके, अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ प्रोवाइड करेगा साइंटिफिक रिसर्च के लिए, पब्लिक एजुकेशन के लिए. इट विल क्रिएट अ बफर जोन. ओके, व्हाट इज अ बफर जोन? वेयर सपोज दिस इज अ कोर एरिया वेयर animal activities are in the peak. So this is core area. Okay, and the buffer zone is the surrounding area of the core area. Okay, we will discuss it further in the environment lectures. Okay, let's see. Okay, in the last class I said endangered species are those species which are confined to a particular area. That was a mistake, and actually endemic species are those species which are only confined to a area, only they are found in a specific area. Okay, these are endemic species. Okay, let's see what is the significance of wildlife sanctuary. These are the most essential features for protection of environment. Okay, biodiversity conservation karibo, equilibrium in the ecosystem आनिबो. It will be equilibrium कैसे? Human आउ animal रो balance maintain करिबो. Then scientific research रे help करिबो. Then education and awareness spread करियो रे help करियो, because wildlife sanctuaries are also educational sites for scientific research. Okay, about animal, about environment, about forest, about diversity. Okay, and about floras. These research can happen in the wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, tourism and economy promote kariyo. As we saw, tourism kind of activities are also can be done in wildlife sanctuaries. So what are the provisions for wildlife sanctuaries in India? India has its Wildlife Protection Act 1972. We will see about this act in the upcoming sessions in a broad manner. Okay, then who will declare the sanctuary? In the last video we saw national parks are declared by both state governments and the national government, central government, where whereas in the wildlife sanctuary the state government is empowered to declare an area as a wildlife sanctuary. It should be a forested region. So what are the restriction activities? We saw there are some activities allowed. So what else are the restricted activities? Hunting, poaching, catching wildlife are strictly prohibited. Okay, habitat improvements that benefit wildlife such as excavation of water holes are allowed, but any activity is likely to be deleterious of wildlife is not. What it says, that means in simple terms se kahuchi जे जदि कौनसी एक्टिविटी वाइल्ड लाइफ को सपोर्ट करुची देन इट इज अलाउड, एनीथिंग दैट इज नॉट सपोर्टिंग वाइल्ड लाइफ देन इट इज नॉट अलाउड इन द वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी. कंजर्वेशन प्लान्स डेफिनेटली अलाउड हेतिबो हैला. कम्युनिटी इन्वॉल्वमेंट डेफिनेटली अलाउड हेतिबो. कम्युनिटी इन्वॉल्वमेंट दैट मीन्स लोकल कम्युनिटी. सपोज कौनसी आदिवासी कम्युनिटी अछंती सेमानंकु सेठी काम करबा को तांकर लाइवलीहुड अपॉर्चुनिटी सब अलाउड करा होची आ तांकर सस्टेनेबल प्रैक्टिसेस भी रहउची. Definitely, you know, Adivasi peoples are helpful for the forest. They are the friends of the forest. Okay. Difference between national park and wildlife sanctuary. What is the difference between national park and wildlife sanctuary? We saw legal status. Central government, state government both provide करछि national park case रे. Wildlife sanctuary केवल state government provide करछि. Human activities, no human activities are allowed. Very strict, very rigid. Whereas it is not very rigid, it is flexible, quite flexible. Hala, limited human activities. Okay, conservation of ecosystem and natural habitats ki korchi, national park bhi korchi, protection of specific species and their habitat. Similar, almost kind of similar function they do. Boundaries are well defined and demarcated. Okay, boundaries may be sometimes not as strictly defined. Regulated tourism allowed, often with strict controls, with permissions. Tourism is generally allowed but may have fewer restrictions. Okay, so we saw national park or wildlife sanctuary with a difference here. It is quite strict, very strict, and it is not that strict. Okay, so this is the very difference. And in the last video lecture we saw there are 107 national parks in our country, throughout the country. And we can see, though this photo has been taken from Civil Delhi, we can see there are multiple wildlife sanctuaries throughout India, almost like 573 or 575, you can check it out, wildlife sanctuaries in India. We will also discuss about some important wildlife sanctuaries before the prelims examination. We will dwell into that. Okay, so that is all about wildlife sanctuary, and that's from all my side for today. Thank you. Have a great day. Jai Jagannath.